Lewis Show.
Today's episode of the Ari Lewis Show here on IsraelSportsandNewsRadio.com. Thank you for joining us. We have a great segment today. At any time, you can email us at arilewishow@hotmail.com, or you can email the station at IsraelSportsandNewsRadio@gmail.com. The finals, if you will, are upon us in Israeli basketball. Different system than you'll see in the United States. It's a two-game series. On the line to discuss this and what's going to happen tomorrow night in the finale is the Sports Rabbi, Josh Halickman. Sports Rabbi, how you doing out there?
Good. How you doing there, Ari?
Hey, thank God. So first, before we begin with what happened Monday night, let's talk about these two teams because most people expect Maccabi Tel Aviv to be in the finals. They're not in it this year. We have Hapoel who upset Maccabi in the semis. How shocked were you that actually occurred in the previous round?
Pretty surprised. I was at 3 of the 5 games, all the games that took place in Tel Aviv, games 1, 3, and 5. Game 1, they were lucky to win. Game 2, they blew out Eilat in Eilat. Game 3, they played awful. Game 4, they played terrible. And Game 5, they were atrocious. And they deserved to lose, no question. Eilat played great basketball. I thought that Arik Shivik, their coach, who was coached the national team in the past, did a wonderful job in containing Pargo over the last few games of the series. Pargo had, feasted in games 1 and games 2, and then there were adjustments made. He made the right adjustments. Guy Goodis didn't. We have to say Maccabi was definitely playing with a short bench. A lot of players hurt. Guy Panini, Sylvan Landsberg, Devin Smith, guys that would have been starters all year long, were hurt. They haven't played in a while, especially Devin Smith and Guy Panini and Landsberg. All of them have been out, and that was a big loss for Maccabi. But still, Maccabi Tel Aviv should have found the way to win the games. Maccabi has not worked well with their young Israeli players over the past number of years, and this year was no exception to that rule, unfortunately for them. And they were caught. They had a very short bench. They had to play 2 Israelis on the court at every time. Alex Tyus played many minutes, who, by the way, has exercised his option to leave the club, and he's going to buy out the rest of his contract for $150,000 and probably move to another club in Europe, potentially Khimki in Moscow, which is a big team with a lot of money. Sofa was a disaster most of the season, and again, he did nothing in these series. It was one mistake after the next. What could you say? The players just did not play well all year. I think this was just a microcosm of what happened in the last 3 games of the season when they, lost 3 in a row. Could you imagine a Maccabi Tel Aviv team losing 3 games in a row? And in all competitions, they lost over 20 games this year. That is just unheard of for any Maccabi team. And management has to take a good hard look at what they had to do. The magic worked the year before. The magic did not rub off on them this season.
A great point about losing 3 games. You'll see sometimes years with Maccabi not doing that. So Guy Goodis currently is the coach. There was a lot of talk when he was hired about if he was going to fill David Blatt's shoes in some type of way. Considering this is a disaster for Maccabi, is he out the door by next season?
No, he's already been told that he's going to continue. That's been publicly announced. There's, no question he's going to continue with the club coming up next season. And you know what? Who is even going to replace him? That's the bigger question. I don't even know who Maccabi would look at to replace him. Arik Shivik would be a candidate, but I don't think he would be a Maccabi Tel Aviv material. They were talking about bringing in maybe a foreign coach. At the end of the day, they're going to keep Guy Goodis. I think Guy Goodis is a good coach. He, when you don't have your top scorer, Devin Smith, and you don't have Sylvan Landsberg, who is an extremely explosive scorer that came off the bench over this past year, you don't have the 3-point threat of Guy Panini all season long, and these players were never replaced. He thought there was going to be a replacement coming for Guy Panini at a certain point. That never happened. Marquise Haynes was a disaster of a guard this year. He wanted him out of here at the beginning of the season. That did not happen either. So when you really look at it, management really blew it this season. I don't think Guy Goodis has very much to take the blame. I mean, of course, he's the coach and he has to take some of the blame. But when you start seeing things that management didn't want to get this and management didn't want to replace that, and management allowed him to, go with a roster that was, really a pared down roster, I guess they were honest with themselves and said, hey, he did the best he could have done with what he had to work with.
Which is unique because usually the coach gets the blame even if it's not his fault, and it is nice that they looked at it fairly and decided to keep Guy Goodis for next year. Again, we're speaking with the Sports Rabbi here on the Ari Lewis Show. Sports Rabbi, let's talk about Hapoel a lot. Even though Maccabi had its struggles, let's give them credit for getting here. What are some of the secrets to their success outside of their coach who's worked with the national team? Talk about some of their players and their system that have got them to this point.
Yeah, they have a very good mix of Israeli veterans and also foreign veteran players, from Adrian Yuter to Khalif Wyatt, who played terrific basketball over the past 6 months or so, to Afik Nissim, who played many years outside of Israel, is in his mid-30s, came back and led them to that series, semifinal series victory over Maccabi Tel Aviv. Afik Nissim is a consummate professional, great player, knows how to lead. He's a leader on the court. I think one of the big things that Maccabi didn't have was they did not have a leader on the court all year. And when you don't have a captain, you don't have a leader, it's a problem. Yogav Ohayon did not fill that role. Neither should he. It's not in his nature, and that's okay. But Eilat had a number of leaders, a number of veterans. Kevin Palmer unfortunately got hurt in the first game of the finals with a dislocated shoulder. He was a big aspect to the club this year. When you have a mixture of those, Elisha Kadir, another great veteran Israeli player, you have Niv Berkovich, of course, the son of Mickey Berkovich. He's a shooter off the bench, hitting three-point shots. That's helpful as well. They just had a good mix of veterans, of youngsters, a good mix of Israelis, a good mix of foreign players. You know, when you have that mix, you're in good shape, and you have that ability to play with players of that ilk and that style. It makes everybody's life a hell of a lot easier. Brian Asbury also good player, good veteran. I think that they built the team well. The team is coached well, and it's unfortunate that they lost the first game at home by 15 points because I can't see how they're going to make a turnaround in game 2 of this series, where it's a total point series in Jerusalem in front of 10,000, 11,000 Jerusalem fans. It's going to be very, very difficult, and especially with Kevin Palmer out now, I can't see how Jerusalem is not going to win their first ever title. However, it will be a title with an asterisk because they did not beat Maccabi Tel Aviv.
Yeah, that's something people will look at. Well, let's talk about the Jerusalem team because this was your pick at the beginning of the year to win the whole thing, even if Maccabi Tel Aviv was in the finals. Any surprises for you is regards to players on the team? You said Donta Smithfield is the best player in the league, but were there other guys that stepped up that you didn't think were going to step up that brought Hapoel Jerusalem to the finals?
Yeah, I think Tony Gaffney, outspoken center, had very, very difficult times at the beginning of the year. He came back professional. He just has looked really good over the last quarter, last third of the season, played extremely well in game 1 with 13 points in 17 minutes. Lior Eliyahu has had a good year. I think he performed better than expected. Defensively, he's still a liability, but by Maccabi not keeping him a couple of years ago, probably a big mistake on their part. Yotam Halpern has performed okay. I think Bar Timor Israeli has played extremely well over the season. I think he's done a good job with them. You look at Dante Smith had a miserable game in the first game of the finals, only 4 points in 22 minutes. But I think the big signing that they made, really that put them over the top, was Dion Thompson. They brought him in after the Chinese season ended, the last quarter of the year, and he has made such a big difference, especially in the center position, where they had been getting almost nothing out of their centers all season. He has been such a big factor. 17 points this past game, but he had an overall index of 25. I mean, that he's just been a fabulous, fabulous addition. And if you look at his games, game in, game out, he produces every single game. If it's, you're looking at double digits every game. He's pulling down rebounds. He's drawing fouls. He knows how to play. And that made the biggest difference. The minute they signed him, and I think maybe we were even on the radio together at that point, back in February or March perhaps, I said that this was a great signing. Dion Thompson was a great signing. They picked up the right foreigner at the right time, and regardless if they would have played a full-strength Maccabi Tel Aviv, I still believe that Hapoel Jerusalem would have won, but of course we'll never know.
Yeah, that is something that's a bit disappointing, but Hapoel Jerusalem has been runner-up for so many years, and barring some type of ultimate collapse, if they don't win they can lose the game on Thursday night by 14 points and still win the title. So going forward, what happens with the rivalry? Because then Jerusalem comes in as the reigning champs, and do we see the tide turning? We talked about this again months ago that the champs may be going down and there'll be a new king in town, new sheriff in town. Is this going to change the face of Israeli basketball for the next years to come?
I think it already has changed the face of Israeli basketball. Maccabi can't look at Hapoel Jerusalem as the perennial choker. Yes, certainly Maccabi beat them in the State Cup final. It was a good win. I was there for that. They totally dominated Jerusalem. But you see, when they spent a little bit of extra money, they brought in the right foreigner at the right time. It makes a huge difference. And it's going to have to make Maccabi do a little bit of homework. They're going to have to sit down. They're going to have to see what they did wrong this year. And there's a ton of things that management did wrong this year. And they are going to have to correct those mistakes. They've already started to do that by signing Tyler Rochestie, who was the reigning scoring champion in the EuroLeague this past year. He's definitely a shoot first, pass second guy. Is that what they needed right now? I guess time will tell, but it's a good signing for Maccabi Tel Aviv. They definitely needed scoring. Once Landsberg wasn't there, Panini wasn't there, and Devin Smith wasn't there, the scoring basically sat on the shoulders of Pargo. Brian Randall is not a scorer. Sofo did not score. Alex Tyus did not score. One after the other, didn't score. They needed a score. They addressed it already. That's good. That's showing that they're being proactive and they're going to address these problems. For them to be able to get a player of that ilk is good. He's 30 years old. He's been around the European system for a long time. This is going to be I think Maccabi is going to really correct those mistakes. And I also think they're going to bring in players that they know that they're going to have to compete. They know that they're not going to be able to pull off what they did 2 years ago on the cheap of winning a EuroLeague title. And not only now is the EuroLeague title, it's the Israeli title that they have to worry about, because Jerusalem is going to go hard to be accepted into the EuroLeague. They're going to be the reigning champions, though it's not an automatic berth in the EuroLeague. They are going to put more money into this team, and they are going to play EuroLeague basketball next year. I can't see how they're not going to play EuroLeague basketball. Maccabi's got to be very, very careful about this. Maccabi's got to be very serious, and they're going to have to really take a hard look at what they're doing.
What a great year for Jerusalem. Have a beautiful new stadium, and Mari Steiderberger is involved, one of the co-owners. And again, barring a tremendous collapse, they're going to win on Thursday night on June 25th in Jerusalem. Let's get your prediction. I assume you're not going to think they're going to lose by more than 15 points, but do they slack off a bit? Maybe they don't win the game tomorrow. What do you think happens on Thursday night?
I think that they're going to blow them out of the water. I cannot see how they're going to slack off. There is no way in front of their fans who have supported them all year. They bought over 6,000 season tickets. The place sold out in 2 minutes flat. That place is going to be rocking. It's already going to be a celebration from the first minute without Kevin Palmer. I think that Eilat peaked by beating Maccabi Tel Aviv, and you've seen this in many major sports, Ari. Sometimes the teams end up playing those tough semifinal series, and they get to the final, and they're just flat, and they just don't show up. And it was 25-22 after the first quarter. In game one, Kevin Palmer got hurt in the first minute or two of the second quarter, and that was it. That was all she wrote, and I just don't see anything happening over here. I mean, really, this is bye-bye, so long, and farewell.
And the Sports Rabbi, again, not jumping on the bandwagon, had Hapoel Jerusalem all the way at the beginning of the year, been very solid with his predictions for many years regarding Israeli basketball and other sports. He had, of course, Pat Riley on the doorstep midnight taking the free agents with LeBron James. Sports Rabbi, before we let you go, give a plug, a promotion where people could find out more about you and listen to your shows.
Of course, check me out on sportsrabbi.com, and you can see all the greatest and latest news in Israeli basketball, football, soccer. Everything gets covered over there. And shoot me a tweet at Twitter at the Sports Rabbi. So at the Sports Rabbi, check me out over there, sportsrabbi.com. And thanks a lot, Ari, for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, as always. Again, this has been another episode of the Ari Lewis Show here on Israel Sports News Radio. My guest has been the Sports Rabbi, Josh Halickman. Josh, enjoy the game. I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun, and we will speak soon.
We'll speak to you later. Take care, Ari.
All right, you too. Be well.